Hi guys, this is Food Mum 2. Welcome back to another Doctor Who video. So today I thought I'd do my top 13 favourite Doctor Who videos. These are just my favourites. I know everyone has strong opinions on what their favourite episodes are and all that, so I'm not trying to say that you have to actually watch my favourites. These are just my favourite videos these are just my favourite episodes of Doctor Who that I've watched that I like from the modern era. I'll also do my favourite episodes from the classic era as well if you guys want that. So yeah, so these are my top 13 favourites. I've picked 2 from series 3 and then the rest are just one single episode. One episode whether it's a two-parter. Some of these are two-parters, so I'll read out both titles, and some of these are just single-parters. Only 2 of these are two-parters, believe it or not. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. I'll start reading from the bottom and then work my way up to the number 1 spot so you guys can see what I've got for my number 1 episode. Number 13, Fugitive of the Judoon. Now there's not many episodes I like from series 12, but Fugitive of the Judoon is one of my personal faves because Chris Chibnall brought the Judoon back after they made their appearance in series 3. So they were off screen for at least a decade, because they first appeared in obviously series 3's opener, which I'm not telling you the name of because it's on my list. So yeah, and then they appeared again in obviously season 4, the last part of season 4. So they haven't appeared since 2008. So I wanted to put Fugitive of the Judoon last because it was one of my favourite episodes, I think. Number 12, Demons of Punjab. The only reason I like this episode is we get a bit more character development with Yaz and her family and her nan and all that, marrying someone else. So I kind of like Demons of Punjab because you got a character development for Yaz finally, and I think that was absolutely perfect. The episode was perfectly written by Chris Chibnall and I just loved the episode entirely so much. And it's one of my favourites. I think my favourites from series 11 and 12 are the ones where you get character development for each companion. So, and also just Demons of Punjab was perfect as it is, and I don't think anyone needed to change it. I don't think it would have been better if Russell T Davies wrote it, because I still feel like it would have been good whoever wrote the episode if it was Stephen Moffat or Russell T Davies. But I still feel like it would have been a good episode depending on which showrunner had wrote it at the time. But because obviously Chris is the current showrunner and stuff, it's written by him. And I feel like Demons of Punjab and Fugitive of the Judoon both gave Chris's writing a chance to shine. Hoping in this series it gives Chris's writing a chance to shine a bit more. But I just love the character development for Yaz in that episode, and I'm actually kind of glad that Chris actually finally got to the character development for Yaz in series 11. Number 11, Thin Ice. I love Thin Ice. It was written by Stephen Moffat and it's Bill's second trip in the TARDIS. I liked how they went to the future first and then the past. I thought that was a nice element, but you can't beat Thin Ice. In season 10, Liz Capaldi's last season with a new companion, I absolutely loved it. I think Thin Ice was very ambitious for Doctor Who. Very ambitious. They actually filmed that in London in winter. It was very ambitious for them, I think, personally. And I think they've never done anything like it, and you can't beat Thin Ice in series 10. You just can't. I also love the concept of the Thames being frozen over. However they did that, that was very clever. So yeah, I love the concept of that, personally for me. And I just love the concept of Thin Ice and the fact that it was the Thames frozen over and then you have a beast underneath the Thames. I just love the idea of having an alien element to that episode. Obviously it's Doctor Who, obviously you're going to get some kind of alien element to the episode, but I just loved how there was a slow build up to the creature. Like on the TARDIS scanner you could see, when they went out you could see life form detected on the scanner, but I love the build up to it. I love the clues to there's something wrong here, and I think that's the perfect episode for Peter Capaldi's final season as the Doctor. I think it's perfect. Number 10, The Girl Who Died. Now, this is a weird choice for me to pick, but I love the episode so much. I love the concept of this kind of war thing. I just loved the concept so much to this episode. It was the perfect episode. Even though you see the sonic glasses, which I am not getting into because they were probably the worst technology that the 12th Doctor has ever carried, I love the fact that the 12th Doctor figured out where he got that face from, and that he knew that he had to save someone because the 10th Doctor prior saved that particular face. So I just love the fact that it was really good and just a nice kind of element to the Doctor realising where he got that face from. He got that face from when he saved some people in Pompeii, and I just think that was the perfect kind of episode for that series. And that was series 9. Number 9, Into the Dalek. You can't go wrong with a classic Dalek story. And I feel like Into the Dalek is that perfect Dalek story, a mix between a good Dalek and a bad Dalek. A Dalek knowing what humanity is and feeling it, and a normal Dalek just hating humanity altogether. I kind of love that element of the Doctor able to turn the Dalek good and being able for it to shoot Daleks and actually save humanity for the first time. And again, the perfect Stephen Moffat story. He wrote it perfectly, and he showed us that even a Dalek can change human if the Doctor interferes with it a bit and changes its outlook on humanity. And I think just like Evolution of the Dalek set, just like Daleks in Manhattan, Evolution of the Daleks, I feel like finally a Dalek understanding what humanity is and being able to change to a better person, it can't be a bad thing for a Dalek story. A bit like Daleks in Manhattan, first Dalek looks like a really bad Dalek, and then when he turns human, he realises what he's done wrong and he wants to make the Dalek humans a bit more human. So I feel like you can't go wrong with changing a Dalek's DNA when you have to in a story like that. It has to be perfect. Number 8, The Power of Three. I love this story because it was Amy and Rory's last kind of story based on Earth before obviously Angels Take Manhattan, which again is the perfect episode for them, for their finale episode. But I also liked the element that the Doctor had to stay with them and watch time passing as we do, because obviously the Doctor's a Time Lord. He's got a freaking time machine. He's got a freaking time machine. He can just skip to the next day or whenever he wants. So it was a nice story where the Doctor finally has to sit still and wait and watch time like us humans do, and you can see the Doctor struggling with that. So I think it's the perfect story for the Doctor actually finally having to just be patient with the cubes and watching time pass as we humans do, rather than just getting in the TARDIS and just skipping to the next day and just staying with Amy and Rory as well. Like actually staying with Amy and Rory as well in their house, in obviously the guest bedroom in their house. So yeah, and I also just like the concept of the cubes as well, and the slow invasion of Earth basically. I just love it. I love that story. Number 7, The Girl Who Waited. Again, the perfect story for Amy. This episode was more focused around Amy and Rory trying to save her, with the Doctor being safe in the TARDIS. So yeah, I love it. It's such a good character story for Amy as well. Amy waited 50 years for the Doctor to return, and the two Amys help each other. That older Amy helps the younger Amy get back to the Doctor, and it's just literally the perfect story, perfect character development for Amy. She had a lot of character development in obviously Series 5's opener, but I feel like The Girl Who Waited develops it more. I feel like when Stephen Moffat wrote that story at the time, he wanted Amy to have a bit more characteristics to her, and her turning into the Doctor almost. So yeah, I feel like The Girl Who Waited is the perfect story for that particular episode. And speaking of Series 5, number 6, The 11th Hour. I love this opener because it's the first opener without David Tennant and Rose and Martha or Donna in there. It's the first episode of the new Doctor. It's the first episode of Matt Smith's era, and you've got the potential new companion, Amy Pond. She waited 12 years for the Doctor, and he finally comes back when she's older, and she's got plenty of character development. She's a kiss the ground 1 minute, and she's a little girl when the Doctor first meets her, and so on like that. So, it's like the perfect story for a new companion and a new Doctor at the same time. The Doctor's just regenerated, but before he can finish his regeneration, he's got to leap in and save the world. But the Atraxi aren't the main point of the story. The main point of the story, just like a lot of openers in each series, is character development. So basically, the Atraxi and Prisoner Zero, they're just B plots. They're not exactly that important to the story. They're just B plots to the story. So yeah, they're just B plots to the story. The main story is about the character development for the Doctor and Amy. This is the first kind of series opener that focuses on the Doctor and Amy's character development. It's very ambitious for Stephen Moffat to do that, I think. Number 5, Dalek. Now, this is the only story I like from Season 1. Yes, I know, iconic, right? Season 1 and Season 2 aren't exactly my favourite series of all. But Dalek, I feel like, again, you can't go wrong with a pretty basic Dalek story, like a Dalek story. They get as good as it gets, but I like this story as well because when Rose touches the Dalek, it kind of absorbs Rose's DNA and kills itself because it wants to breathe some light, and then it wants to kill itself because it knows it's dangerous. And I feel like how the Dalek works that out by itself with Rose by its side, I feel like that's not a bad thing. And I also like the fact that Rose stopped the Doctor from killing the Dalek because the Dalek finally found itself a sense of humanity and decided it wanted to exterminate itself. And I feel like that's the perfect element. That's the perfect element to a Dalek story. Number 4, the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. I didn't just pick this out because Martha's in them, but I love the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky because it's a 2-parter. You can get so much in, and I feel like if it was a 1-parter, you'd have to rush the pacing a bit. But the pacing on this episode was perfect. It was a 2-parter, which means you could get a lot more in the whole 46-minute time slot with each episode. And yeah, I loved how you had clone Martha in mostly the second half, and the Doctor obviously comes in and saves Martha and hugs her to tell her it's okay. He's there. He's saved her. He's there. But I love the element of Martha calling the Doctor and Donna back down to Earth for the Doctor's help with the whole Sontaran thing. And I love the whole Atmos storyline as well because you had the Atmos storyline in the Partners in Crime episode. I'm not sure how I feel about that episode. That episode is a little bit weird and just not very good. Not as good as other season openers. But yeah, I also love the fact that you finally get the answer to the whole Atmos storyline that Russell T Davies dropped in at the beginning of the series. But also you have that bees disappearing element as well. That's kind of his story arc for the finale, which I think is quite cool. A bit like the whole Mr. Saxon arc, but we'll get into that another time. Number 3, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. I picked this out because it's Rose's last episode. Hooray. I never liked Rose, or Clara for that matter. Clara. So yeah, Rose for me was either a relatable character or not relatable, and she wasn't relatable in my aspect. So yeah, but Army of Ghosts and Doomsday are the perfect. It was a Doctor Who first, because you had Cybermen and Daleks fighting, and that was a Doctor Who first, Russell said. because they didn't fight in the whole classic era, and it was so cool because you first meet Freema Agyeman, who plays Adiola, and that kind of gives Russell the idea of that obviously gives Russell the idea of a new companion, because they knew Billy was leaving from the very start and things like that. And it's nice to have like Martha's sister in that, Martha's cousin in that episode, Adiola, and it's just a nice little episode that has Cybermen and Daleks, Doctor's two worst ever enemies, fighting, but the Doctor doesn't know it's a Dalek yet until he sees obviously the spear and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good episode. I think it's a good episode. I like the CGI spear. That was quite cool. Number 2, Gridlock. I love Gridlock. I know what you guys are going to say. Gridlock's not exactly this, but it is. It's the perfect episode for the Doctor and Martha. After their first trip together, the Doctor obviously expands Martha's trip just a bit because he wants a companion with him. He just doesn't like to admit it. And Gridlock's that episode where after lockdown, during lockdown, you can just watch it and understand the whole community thing, because we went into lockdown and the whole community thing was a bit more of a bigger understanding. But what I like about Gridlock is it's New Earth again, and Martha knows that she is a rebound for the Doctor, but then she does so much and she makes sure the Doctor doesn't know that she's just a rebound for Rose, rightfully so, and earns her place as a rightful companion in the Doctor's heart. But also Martha fills a different shaped hole in the Doctor's life as well. Like what Russell did is he made Martha fill a different shaped hole in the Doctor's life rather than filling that rose shaped hole. And I think what he did there was really clever, the whole Martha thing. Also, this is the first companion for a while that's on equal footing with the Doctor. Like, is very equal to the Doctor in many ways, because Martha was intelligent, fearless, had charisma and beauty, and she tackled the Doctor like no other companion did before. And the Doctor finally had someone on kind of equal level. And Martha was very similar in the Doctor in a way, because she had a spark and adventurous nature, which the Doctor takes with priority, and she was intelligent, which the Doctor takes to heart. So she has anyway. But I do like Gridlock, and also the car scene where the Doctor jumps from vehicle to vehicle to try and find Martha because she's kidnapped, and it's just amazing. And I also like when he is obviously in the Senate and he sees Martha's car on the scanner and he's like, that's Martha, I knew she was good. Like, he appreciates that she's good. So yeah, and number 1, there was only one episode that I could give the number 1 spot to in my eyes. Smith and Jones. The perfect season 3 opener. I'm sorry, but season 3 opener was amazing. Smith and Jones. We meet Martha, and Russell was very clever with the writing. He could have just put a carbon copy of Rose. He could have just done a carbon copy of Rose, but he didn't. He gave us a brand new companion, and Martha's family was put a bit more to the side with this, with her. So I thought they didn't lack character development. They had enough character development, but they were put a bit more to the side. Unlike Rose's family, who were put a bit more in the centre with her. So yeah, I loved Smith and Jones because the Doctor's been travelling on his own for a while, and he's in a weird kind of place. But then when he sees Martha, he's sat in bed chirping, being silly, that kind of thing. And you kind of know the Doctor wants a companion because he's a better man with a companion by his side. And the Doctor's kind of there at the hospital with the Doom and stuff on them, and the visuals looked amazing, by the way. So yeah, it looked incredibly high budget, the season 3 opener. It looked incredibly high budget. I mean, come on. So yeah, it was amazing, I think. And the Doctor's like kind of with Martha thinking, you know what, she could be the one. So it's no surprise that the Doctor invites Martha into the TARDIS at the end. Rose is looking for an escape. Martha wasn't. I think Martha's just bemused. Martha just stumbles across the TARDIS and is just bemused by it, I think, and she doesn't look for an escape. But I like the fact that at the end she just walks away from her family disaster party and goes towards a better life, because who would not want a better life with the Doctor, a time-travelling alien from the planet Gallifrey? I mean, who wouldn't want a better life with the Doctor? And also I like the fact that when we first meet Martha, she's kind of in the middle of the family crisis, and she's kind of like the calm, collected, kind of cool shoulder kind of one, and it shows that in her family that she's the one that they all go to for advice and help, which is, I think, is the best thing. And I like the fact that she kind of, when the Doctor kind of comes around the corner, he's come back, he's waiting for her outside the TARDIS, he's waiting for her outside the TARDIS, and she goes to see him. She goes towards a better life, a life without her family, without listening to her family arguments. So Smith and Jones is that perfect kind of continued episode, and I love how Russell did Martha's entrance into the TARDIS, saying your spaceship's made of wood, it's bigger on the inside, is there a crew, like a navigating stuff, wherever it's everybody. The questions he puts in for Martha's entrance into the TARDIS is just amazing. Like Russell said, he can't write those often enough. He could have made it 55 minutes for all he cared. But he said, in obviously the confidential episode and stuff like Meet Martha Jones, he said, I don't think anyone's asked is there a crew, a navigator and stuff, where is everyone, that kind of thing. He did it with Rose, he did it with Donna, and I think he did it with Martha really incredibly well. I think her entrance into the TARDIS is my favourite because the Doctor mimes it. He's like, it's inside. He actually asked the director at the time, how about I mime what Martha's gonna say, because they all say it anyway, and they did one take and it looked perfect. Like Martha's going, it's bigger on the inside, but then the Doctor's like, it's bigger on the inside, because he knows what she's gonna say. And I also like his sarcastic remark, is it? I have noticed. And that's just perfect. I think in Martha's entrance done in the TARDIS. So yeah, that's my list of my favourite Doctor episodes. Let me know yours. Let me know yours, because I'd like to know what other people's favourites are personally, because I love nosing around what other people's favourites are. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up if you did, and make sure you click that big subscribe button down below, and click the notifications bell to get notifications every single time I upload. For now, stay wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Bye.